Before we continue our discussion into strategy development, let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the skills it takes to become a good marketing general or a good marketing head coach for a sports business. The strategist must have an intimate knowledge of what happens on the battlefield, and that is, you cannot be unprepared and be a good strategist. A strategist has to know what's going on in their field. And of course, that's one of the reasons that I'm having you folks read a number of other things other than simply your textbook when it comes to sports marketing. For you to be knowledgeable about any particular sport and how to market it, you have to have an intimate knowledge of what's happening in that field and in that sport. Patton, famous General George Patton, used to say, one tries to make plans fit the circumstances. And as a result, the best strategists, and by the way, the best coaches, are those that know their competition so well they can anticipate their moves and are ready to defend against any of them going forward. The general or the head coach or the strategist must be flexible. Turns out that many strategists start with a strategy that's worked for them in the past, and then they analyze the situation, and lo and behold, they make the situation fit the strategy that they wanted to use. And the facts are never clear cut, and so they decide, let's do what we did last time. It turns out that being flexible and being willing to make changes is one of the things that is a true virtue. Mental courage. We have this little saying that says, when you're up to your ears in alligators, it's difficult to remember that the objective was to drain the swamp. In many cases, decisions that we have made do not appear to be working. There is a point in time when you have to have the courage to make changes or to stay with decisions that you've made in the past. Once again, it is this mental toughness and this mental courage that makes good strategists. Boldness is a key for being a good strategist. Decisiveness is a key trait. You have to know when to hold them, and of course, you have to know when it's time to make a change. You need to know the facts. The realities and details are critical. Do not try to make the facts fit the situation and the strategy that you want to implement. When you see the facts, analyze them. Understand the facts. As Joe Friday used to say on Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Lucky. This is sort of an interesting part of being a good strategist. You have to realize that when you're on a roll, you need to let it ride. And of course, you also need to know when to fold them and take your winnings. You need to understand the idea of being lucky. Communication skills. As we like to say, motivation will not win the battle, but low morale can certainly defeat any strategy. Your marketing team will be successful if they are motivated. But if they are not motivated and discouraged, almost for certain, the implementation will not be successful. Of course, integrity. Integrity and trust bonds a team together. One of the ways that you build a winning team is to make sure that everyone knows that we are working together, we're all on the same team, and we have each other's backs. And of course, there is this notion of creativity. That is the ability to see new solutions for old problems. As Einstein used to say, Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. An example, Lou Holtz's accomplishments at William and Mary, North Carolina State, Arkansas, Minnesota, Notre Dame are very impressive. In each of those stops as him as a head coach. Now, Lou Holtz is a very famous football coach who is now retired and is mostly known for his successes at Arkansas and Notre Dame. But it turns out that one of his biggest successes was at Minnesota. He took a job at Minnesota, and Minnesota had a one-win season before he got there. He got to Minnesota and he looked around, and it turned out that he did not have a very talented football team. But he did find out that the best athlete on his team was a second or third string quarterback by the name of Ricky Foggy. So while Lou Holtz was never an option coach, he implemented the triple option with Ricky Foggy at the quarterback. And they rode Ricky Foggy to an 8-4 season and a bowl game. And Lou Holtz won that turnaround at Minnesota to the job at Notre Dame, the job that he had always coveted. His success at Minnesota wasn't based on doing the same old thing that Lou always did, but instead learning how to adapt to the situation as it was presented to him. Great strategists are those that can adapt to the situation at hand. The worst competitive strategists and the worst marketing strategy people are those with no creativity. They only have one option: imitate someone else. They're easy to identify. They use terms like benchmarking, proven strategies, best practices, modeling, emulating. They're always modeling someone else's strategy, no matter how inappropriate given the situation. If that sounds familiar, then you're in an organization without great strategists.